Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to Coder Conversations. If you want to catch up on any previous episode, visit us at www.coderconvos.com. I'm your host, Kevin.
And he's here with Brian Russick, professional drummer, percussionist out of the Suffolk County, Long Island, New York area. You can reach me for drum lessons at my website, brianrussick.com.
And for today's guest, we have Zaineb Aljumayaat, 3D artist, currently working at NASA and formerly of Riot Games. Welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Hey, thanks for coming on.
It's definitely a pleasure to have you on the show. That's really interesting. Working at NASA and doing 3D illustration. Just to get things started, if you don't mind, can you give us a little bit about your background? How did you get into art and particularly 3D illustration?
So as many art kids, I started out drawing a bunch, but I really loved video games. So I was trying to find a way to bridge those two things. So I started doing a lot of like physical sculptures and models and working with different materials. But I still wanted to do something in video games. So that's how I started learning digital 3D. Because I started realizing that my mind thinks more in 3D than 2D. So
Oh, wow.
taking those skills that I learned as a kid and like working on my digital 3D skills, made it easier for me to get into that workflow. But at the same time, I still loved like painting in 2D and that drawing aspect, which is what led me towards like a stylized 3D look where I'm still able to like paint the textures and get that 2D look, but create the scene in a 3D way and make it more dimensional and interactive.
Oh, wow. That's pretty interesting.
Awesome. So who were some of your early inspirations as artists, or what video games really inspired you art wise?
As a kid, I mean, I feel like many people my age can relate to this. I loved Undertale. That was like a huge game I played as a kid. Just story wise, it like really inspired me, and I was like, oh, like the storytelling you can tell through games is so powerful. And then I got into Subnautica, which now probably stands as one of my favorite video games. Even as I've like grown. I also played, DSi games, of course. I think many of us played them as kids in Game Boy. I'm trying to think of like
Right.
what else I love playing.
Now, what about something like Zelda?
I actually didn't play Zelda.
Oh, wow.
I really want to, but I never actually played it, even though it's like
It's a
honestly
huge
artistically.
series. Yeah, it's a huge
Yeah.
series at this point. Yeah.
No, I agree. I think it's so beautiful. I haven't really checked it out, even though I really do want to.
It's
Yeah.
pretty
Trying to
interesting
like,
that you mentioned Undertale.
yeah.
More of like a retro, 2D game, game art.
Yeah.
Like I think for me, I really grew up. I really like Capcom's artists a
Mhm.
lot, like Mega Man, Street Fighter, etc.
Mhm.
Did you ever get into any of their artwork?
No, I played a bunch of Mario Kart though, and like Nintendo games, um,
Nice.
Okay.
Pokemon Go, but I didn't get into like the fighting stuff. But I played a lot of Nintendo.
Okay, cool. So like when you were younger, did you have like sketchbooks full of just your own characters and worlds, or like,
Yeah, I
what?
did. I had like I still have them because I think every artist should keep their work.
Right.
So many sketchbooks of like characters and environments and just like learning my how to draw better. So yeah, I had so much, and most of the stuff I drew was like fan art for the games that I was playing. So yeah.
Oh, awesome.
Okay, cool. Did you like make your own stories to go along with everything, or make your own comics or anything like that?
I did, but a lot of it was like based off of the video games that I was playing. So like an alternate universe of like the game. I also watched like I've also was heavily into like TV shows as well, like animated shows. So I was also like drawing those characters and making alternate universes for them. I just basically fell in love with like storytelling through art.
Okay. Like, did you ever end up joining any of the like the online artist communities like DeviantArt? I know they used to have like conceptart.org, but I think they shut down.
Yeah, I was on DeviantArt. I remember I got into it because of I was doing a bunch of My Little Pony fan art, and that was going crazy on DeviantArt back then. So um, that was, yeah, I was definitely on there, but now I'm more like on ArtStation and more professional
Yeah, nice,
platforms.
nice.
Okay, interesting. Like, so when did you realize that this is what you wanted to do as a full time career versus something you just did for fun?
Um, I knew it's what I wanted to do when I would basically like every week I'd get this feeling like if I couldn't do a job where I got to do art, I would feel like I didn't complete something I would want to complete before I die. And that's like a really like convoluted way of putting it, but I'm basically trying to say is like I just knew that if I didn't become an artist, I would not be satisfied with my life.
Right.
So I knew I had to do it. Like it's almost like when you feel like you're almost called to something. Like
Yeah, well, like,
I
for
just
me,
didn't
it's
feel.
music.
Yeah,
For me, I was called to music at a
yeah.
very young age, first guitar at probably 8 years old,
Mhm.
then took kind of a break from music, 14, got my first drum set, and I just kinda took off from there.
Yeah. See, funny enough, music is actually starting to pop into my life now because I've been singing my whole life, but I never really took it seriously. And like recently, it's become like, oh my gosh, like I feel like if I don't do something about this, I will not be satisfied with my life.
Yeah, that's kind of the feeling I
Yeah,
get. I mean, I've gone I think in the last 10 years, maybe I took a year off just because psychologically, I needed a break. I think we all need a break from
yeah,
our art at times. So I did take about a year off and
mhm,
just kind of relax. But when I picked it back up, everything came right back, right back. The only things I
yeah,
really had to work on were, I would say, endurance and dynamics, but especially
mhm,
endurance.
yeah.
So, like in terms of music, did you want to play an instrument or is it mostly singing?
Mostly singing, but I want to start learning how to produce, but I just have so little experience. Like, it's very much one of those things I want to start doing just after work and experimenting with it and seeing where it goes. Definitely not something that's going to like take up like a huge amount of my time, but I want to explore it.
Okay, yeah, I feel you on that. I recently I stopped, but I was learning the bass guitar, so yeah, it's never too late to pick up new skills.
Yep, I agree.
But yeah, just to get back into your art. So like when did you actually start utilizing 3D programming? I mean not 3D programming, 3D programs, and which 3D programs did you use like Blender or how did you first get your feet
Um,
wet?
I started like very lightly experimenting with it freshman year of college. I joined this club called Browners the Game Developers. It's like a joint video game development club between Brown University and Rhode Island School of Design, which is where I went. And the RISD students, which is the Rhode Island School of Design students, would do the art, and the Brown CS majors would do the programming. So I was like, oh, this is so cool. We get to make video games, but I really wanted to try a 3D game. So one of my friends who I really look up to, basically I asked her to show me how to build like a little world in Unity. So she sat me down, gave me a like quick 30-minute like tutorial, and then I just started playing around with it. Made something like really, really messy and bad, but I just felt proud that I tried it. And then
Right.
from there, yeah, from there I like went from Unity to like actually doing like modeling, which is in Blender. I started using Blender and then used Godot for a little bit, which is another game engine. We used it in the game club. And then eventually I learned more like complex programs like Maya, which I mainly learned last year during my internship at Riot. And then, of course, Substance Painter I started using pretty early on as well to texture my 3D models. I've basically dabbled in every 3D program besides like the more engineering CAD programs. Those I haven't touched.
Yeah, I mean, and how did you decide on all of these?
Like which programs?
Yeah, like how did you come to use the programs that you use today?
Um, so today I mainly use Blender and then Substance Painter for texturing. I'm
Okay,
not like I'm not married to those because there are aspects of Maya that I really love. The only reason I use Blender is because it's free. Maya,
okay,
as you know, very expensive, and like it's also not. I don't need to use it for work. I just use Blender. But if I were to like get a job in the future where I'm using Maya, I wouldn't have an issue with that at all. If anything, I think some aspects of Maya are better. But anyways, um, I came to these programs one because Blender is free, and then I use Substance Painter, which is not free. It's part of the Adobe suite, but I got it free through my college because most colleges get the Adobe suite for free for their
oh, awesome,
students.
nice.
And then that's paid for. I'm like currently um, the position I'm doing at NASA, so they provide Adobe Suite. So that's really the main. It's really more of a money reason why I'm using these programs, which is why like I made an effort to kind of learn all of them in the case that I couldn't use one or the other.
Sure. Now, let me ask, how did you end up at NASA?
So I did not expect it at all. Um, I was just literally senior year of college, fall semester. The Orion communications team, which Orion is the spacecraft that is taking humans back to the moon. The communications team came to our school scouting for students to do communications work. And I decided to talk to them because you can like do like a little meeting and talk to them. I didn't really think much of it. I was just like, oh, whatever, might as well, shoot your shot. So I went and talked to
Sure.
them and I showed them my work, and they really liked my work, which I was surprised by because I would have expected NASA would lean more towards like um, more realistic, heavily rendered artwork. Mine is way more stylized and painterly, but they liked it because it kind of tells the story in a different way that isn't usually told. Because they said they already have realistic models, they already have realistic animations. They don't have a way of telling this story in a more like unique way that could also be catered to like a younger audience. So I think back at it now, this week I've actually been reflecting a lot about it, which is like this pocket that opened up, this position is so specific and so specifically catered to me, and like the work that I do.
Could
It's almost
you could you elaborate on that? You said
um
specific.
yes, because there's a lot of 3D work that they do at NASA, but it's like heavy engineering, like, and when it comes to communications work, it's like very realistic. The fact that like this team felt the need that like felt like they needed something a little bit different, and then I show up with that kind of work that they were looking for. um I don't know, it just kind of like worked out in a very special way, is how I see it.
It kind of sounds like, they were the puzzle and you were the missing puzzle piece.
Kind of, yeah.
That's awesome.
So, like when you constructed your portfolio, did you have like any particular strategy, or was it pretty much just putting your best works together and just sending it out there?
So, I mean, so I get this question a lot, and I feel like um, a lot of art schools and a lot of people have this idea that you should have like 20 different things in your portfolio. But I found that the exact opposite is what makes you so much stronger. Because when you show that you have a specific style of work, when you show that you have consistency, like, and you go for the companies that have that look, they can look at your portfolio and be like, oh, you're already doing the thing that this job is expecting you to do. So you're exactly what we need. Like, that's what happened with Riot. Is like, when I asked them like why I got hired, like why I got the internship, they were like, because your style matched what we do. If I had put like 20 pieces, but each piece had like a different look to it, or if I didn't really, go all in with my stylized 3D work, I put like stylized, but I also put realistic, but then I also put like more graphic and blah, blah, blah. They would have been like, oh, like, we don't really know what she does. Does she actually know what she's doing?
Right. Yeah, I get you.
So I think specialization is actually very powerful and is what has gotten me like the work that I've gotten, just because it just shows what you're doing. You're sticking with this thing, you're continuing to improve it. You're not like jumping around all the time.
Now, your skills as an artist, did they come to you just as a child, or did you, develop them and work on them specifically at any one age?
So I think like when it comes to like talent and what you're born with, I think the only thing you're really born with is just like a very vague understanding of what looks good and what doesn't. But the actual skill of like making that come to life is like something you have to build like everyone else. Like, I think
Yeah.
with music, it's similar, where it's like what you could be born with is you have a sort of taste for what sounds good and what doesn't, but the actual skill of making the music is the same for everyone. Like, you still have to go and learn it. So like for art, I spent pretty much my entire life from drawing as a kid to then going to college and devoting literally my entire life to building these skills. Like, it was a lot of work. The only
Yeah.
like talent I had was just like, I could look at a model and be like, oh, that color looks good or that color doesn't. This feels off or this doesn't. It's almost like an instinctual thing. But the hard work I put in.
Yeah, no, I don't. Yeah, I totally get what you mean. Like with music, you pour yourself into it, and there's all these different aspects and moving pieces and booking and setting up tours, and there's all this stuff that you kind of as a spectator, as a listener, you don't see. You don't see all the
Mhm.
roadies. You don't see the drum techs, the guitar techs. Like there's a lot going on under the
Yeah.
surface, and I think it can be overwhelming at times.
Yeah. Exactly.
So yeah, I used to be an artist myself, but my main problem was that I didn't really enjoy it that much as much as I should, because I got caught into trying to chase perfectionism, comparing my work to
Mhm.
others, and always seeing something wrong. Like, how did you avoid that and just enjoy the process of creating art?
So I struggled very heavily with this. I would say like before going into college and like early college, where I was trying so hard to enjoy the process. Why am I not having fun? Everyone keeps talking about how you should literally be having the time of your life making art. But what I started realizing, like, that's not what fueled me. Fun is not what fuels me. I'm not making this work to have fun. It's still work. What fuels me
Yeah,
is like the end product. It's knowing that I'm going to create something that is like a reflection of me and is also like a good product for whoever I'm making it for. Like, I'm honestly like sick and tired of this, like, you should enjoy the process. Like, I personally, I'm like an end goal person. Like, for me, the
yeah,
process became more enjoyable when I just embrace like, you know what? I'm gonna sit there sometimes and look at my screen and literally want to like jump off a cliff. And that's okay, because like the process is not always great. It's not always fun. Like, sometimes it's really painful. Sometimes it's annoying. Sometimes I have to like get up and like take like a 30-minute break because I can't look at my screen. But it's knowing that
that's
like, yeah, it's like trusting myself and knowing it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be tough.
yeah.
But that end result
I
is
mean,
gonna look real good on my portfolio.
it makes me think of when people look at someone like, a Michael Jordan. They're like, "Oh, I want to be like Mike. I want to be like Mike." But, do you really? Do you really want to be out there in the rain for hours shooting free throws?
Mhm.
Like, probably not. So that's why most people
Yeah.
don't end up in these highly desirable positions because they're not, flat out, they're just not willing to do the work.
Yeah, the way I see it is the job you end up doing, it's not about what you love most. It's how much of the pain can you put up with. Like, you should choose your job based on how much of the struggle can you live with. Because there are some struggles in some jobs where it's like no matter how much you like force yourself through it, you just cannot get yourself to do it. It's just not for you. And it's more about like, those hours where you got to be sitting there staring at a screen having to like optimize a model. Is that the kind of pain and patience you're willing to have? And that's what you should choose your job based on.
That's interesting.
So did like you finding art, did that come immediately, or were you dabbling with other stuff like earlier on and you eventually settled on art?
um I mean, we've all heard the like trope of like your parents don't want you to be an artist. So like I I was looking into more traditional stuff, like going into like health, and I was really into biology in high school. I was also considering like what was I considering? Like more like coding based things, like way more technical than art. But again, it was just I always just came back to this nagging feeling of like if I don't have the opportunity to make art for some, story that I love, I'm going to feel like I failed at my life. Like it's almost like there's no other way. This has to happen. And you know, it's crazy because like when I got to Riot, like that realization hit me like, oh my gosh, like I got to make work for like, you know, arcane content, which is incredible. Like it's like a dream come true. And it made me think
Yeah.
back at like when I was a kid and I was like convinced, I was like, I have to do this. There's no other way. And yeah.
So it's just kind of like drilled into you. Okay, this is what I am. This is what I'm doing. This is what I'm going to focus on.
Well, I think when you fully believe that you're going to do something, it's going to happen. I think like people doubt themselves too much. People think a lot about how, oh, but that's not possible. But when you're able to just like sit there and like fully visualize yourself doing something, you can visualize it because you know you can do it. That is evidence
Yeah.
right there to you. If you couldn't visualize it, like there's a reason I'm not visualizing being a soccer player because I'm not.
Right.
That's not what I'm meant to do. But I can visualize myself being an artist. I can visualize myself doing these things because that's what's meant for me. And I do genuinely believe that. Like, it doesn't matter like what your faith is and whatever. I do believe every person has like a calling and something that they're meant to do. And I think most people, I think literally everyone sees that from a young age and doesn't realize it. But then it's like you look back and you're like, dang, I kind of knew I was going to do this from like a young age.
Yeah, that makes me think of like New York City, Wall Street guys that, they got into finance because that's what their parents told them to do. And then,
Yeah.
you hear these stories about these guys from these different firms, jumping in front of trains and killing themselves. So it can be very heavy when you look at that piece.
Yeah. I
So
think
like,
if like,
oh, go ahead.
um, I'm sorry. I was gonna say, I think when you stray away from what deep down you want to do or what your identity is, it will just keep screaming at you and it'll become louder and louder until you do something about it.
Right. Sometimes you just get pulled in a different direction. Like I tried art for years, and it was okay. It was pretty fun, but it never really pulled me. And then I tried accounting, hated that, but ultimately when I got into software, it's just something about it that I like. Like I could just
Yeah.
sit there and code all day. Like I don't know why. It's like something you just discover something inside
Yeah.
of you, like you're built for it almost.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
But like yeah, in terms of art, we've all heard the terms like starving artists. So, a lot of times our parents would probably steer us away from something like that. Did you have to convince your parents to be able to go to art school, or were they pretty supportive?
Oh, 100%. Like, um, I mean, I come from like an immigrant family who, if you know anything about immigrant families, it's like the expectation that your kid's either going to be a doctor or a lawyer. And obviously that's not me. Um,
Right.
and
Right.
I had to do a lot of convincing. And part of the convincing was like getting scholarships for school and showing them, like, hey, like, we don't have to pay for this. Like, I can go here pretty much for free. And like, if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't even have went to art school. It was getting the opportunities that I got. Like, it's sort of, I was put into a position where if I didn't show them results, like I wouldn't be able to do the thing that I wanted. So it's like I had to. There was no other way.
Oh yeah, that's really interesting. But yeah, I mean it's understandable, especially I'm half Korean, so I already know like the academic pressure. Like you have to meet this bar. Like did you
Mhm.
ever feel like the pressure was like really intense? Like I need to perform, or else this isn't going to happen. My parents aren't going to accept this. And like, how did you kind of overcome that intense pressure if you had it?
Um, I mean, I grew up with so much pressure, but I think the pressure for me was so intense that I eventually decided I didn't care anymore. That like I was gonna just do the thing I wanted to do no matter what. And
Yeah.
it was less about honestly convincing them and more about it became more of like I'm doing this for myself. Like and then, the things that I did for myself, were good enough to be able to show them and say like, "Hey, look, things are working out, so you can't say no." But my motivation was never for them. It was always for me. It was the fact that I wanted to do this thing, so I'm gonna do all, achieve all these things. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean, it makes me think back to when I graduated high school. I was just, I don't know, I didn't know really what to do. I didn't know if I wanted to go to college. I saw like all the people I went to school with all going to these colleges all over the, United States. And I was
yeah,
like, maybe that's what I'm supposed to do. So I took kind of some time off. I was just working as a health insurance broker remotely, and then I said, you know what? Let me try school. So I went for 2 years, and it didn't pull me.
yeah,
There was no pull there towards doing math or science or writing or anything like that. But all the while I was, playing music and kind of moving forward and moving higher up in that sphere. So basically at 22, I just decided, all right, I'm going to drop everything and move to Los Angeles with my band. And that's what I did. And it was definitely very scary, but I'm looking back, I'm glad I did it.
yeah. Wow.
So yeah, sometimes you just gotta jump off the cliff and just try it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like when did you kind of get the feeling of being settled down and feeling like, okay, I can definitely do this. Like I can get a job in this industry. I know I can make it versus, that fear of should I really be doing this? Or like when did it become real for you?
Um, I'm not gonna lie, it became real for me when I got my internship at Riot. Cause like that was like the first time where I got evidence of like, oh, my work is good enough to be hired. Cause
Yeah.
like that was my first internship. So I had no evidence before that, in the workforce to prove that I could be hired for my work. And it honestly got to a point where I also like convinced myself that like maybe art wasn't like the thing. So I started like learning like production, like video game production. And I actually applied to the production internship role at Riot before I did the 3D art one. I applied for the production one like months before. I was prepared a resume. I would like go to the career center like every week. And I was fully convinced. I was like, you know what, maybe art isn't for me, because I had so little confidence in my work. As much as I had worked hard for it, I just didn't think I was good enough. And then my friend, literally when the applications for the art internship at Riot were due, my friend messages me and she's like, Zainab, apply right now. I was like, why? Like, what if it messes up with the other application I submitted? She's like, girl, don't be stupid. Apply. And I was like, okay. And then I was also on LinkedIn. And then there was this one person I was talking to. He was like an alumni from my school who out of nowhere sent me the application. He was like, I think you should apply to this. I'm like, all right. I think God is telling me to apply. So
Yeah.
I was like,
The
okay.
door's being
Exactly.
opened for you. It's being opened.
Exactly. And I submitted that application 2 hours before it was due. And I was like, oh, that's crazy. Nothing's going to come out of this. And then like a few weeks later, I get the rejection for the production internship. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm not working at Riot at all. Like
Right.
it's over, because I fully didn't believe the 3D one would go through. And then out of nowhere, I think it was actually like 3 days. No, not 3 days, like a week before my birthday, I get an email from one of the recruiters being like, she wants to set up a recruiter call. And I literally lost, I don't know if we can cuss on here. I lost my shit. And I was like, whoa, this is real. Like, it's crazy.
Wow.
So yeah, so you got on the interview, like what is an art interview like exactly? Like you just go, you talk, show your portfolio, or what do you do on typical art interviews?
I mean, it depends on the company. Some companies do like a technical screening. I think they do that for like software engineering as well. But from Riot's internship, I didn't have to do that. For Riot's internship, I think it was a total of, I don't remember, either 4 or 5 interviews, but only one of them was about like the technical skill, and the rest were about like culture fit and personality and like how you work with people.
Right.
Oh wow, that's
Yeah.
really interesting. Like what do you think it was that made them choose you over the other candidates? Like, do you feel like, oh, I knocked all of these questions out the park, or like just from your assessment,
Um,
what do you think?
it was definitely my work. It was the fact that like my work basically already looked like what they were doing. Like, um, it was just exactly what they were looking for, basically. Which is why I'm like an advocate for like specialization. Because once you do the thing that you really want to do, then the place that is looking for that exact thing will take you immediately, because they can see that you already know how to do it.
And it's kind of like it's not linear, it's not just like, oh, I did this, then that brings me to this, then that brings me
Yeah.
to that. A lot of musicians that we talk to on here, or composers, they'll say, their path was definitely not direct, definitely,
Yeah.
not a linear path. And for me, it's been the same thing. I've worked in insurance, I've played drums, I've taught drums, but always ending back up, always ending back to music and drumming.
Hmm.
So yeah, like when did how long did it take from once the interview was over for them to get back to you on the fact that you were hired?
Um, I believe around a month. Um, I think for Riot's internships, they take anywhere from like a month to like a month and a half. I think some people even said like longer, just because you have to go through like 4 interviews, so like one per week, and then need like another week to decide if they want to accept you. And they're also going through other candidates, so it's pretty lengthy.
Yeah, it must have
Oh,
been
wow.
pretty nerve wracking. Like,
Yes.
did you like feel like, hey, I really feel like I think I might have this, or were you completely like in the blind? Like, I don't know if I got it, but I'll just finish it up just to complete the process.
I was in the blind after the first interview, the recruiter call. Um, I was overthinking it so much. I did a great job, but I thought I did a really bad job. I don't remember what it was. I think like I said something, but like it wasn't a big deal at all. Like I like didn't properly explain something, but it turns out it, like the recruiter didn't even notice or care. But that whole like week,
Yeah.
I was like so nervous, and I remember it was my birthday a few days after I did the recruiter call, and I felt so horrible. I was like, "Oh, they're gonna reject me on my birthday." And then my
Oh
friends
no.
had thrown me a surprise birthday party, which made me feel so much better. They're like, "Girl, be for real. Like, you're fine. You're overthinking it." And then I
Yeah.
was overthinking it. It worked out, and I think for the rest of the process, I had a feeling I was gonna get it just because when I talked to everyone else, they made it very clear that they really liked my work and that it aligned with what they were doing. And I could just tell that like, okay, it seems like I'm gonna get it because like I don't know, they're really hinting at it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, they use certain keywords or certain phrases like, "Oh yeah, when you work with us, what do you plan on doing X, Y, and Z?" I've kind of had that during
Yeah.
interview processes. Like you can kind of tell if they like you or whatever.
Yeah.
Uh, so
Yeah.
can you describe the feeling to us of how you felt when you actually received the fact that you did get the job?
Um I like it was so weird because I have this thing where I don't really fully process big events like that until like a good 2 or 3 weeks later. So like, I get the call that I got it, and obviously like I'm shocked and I'm really happy, but the reality of the fact that I'm like gonna work at Riot and specifically work on stuff for like having to do with Arcane didn't really start sinking in until like 2 weeks later, and it was just like this, I don't know, like beautiful feeling of like remembering what I wanted to do as a kid and like, wow, like
Yeah.
this is coming to reality, this thing that I had been like dreaming about. And this is the best thing. The best feeling was like, this is just
Yeah.
the beginning. Like,
Right.
this is just the beginning. Like, who knows what more I'm gonna be able to do in like 5 years, not even in like a year. This time last year, I was like at Riot on campus. So like now I'm at NASA. So who knows what's gonna be next summer.
Yeah, I think having NASA on your resume, that should open some doors.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely.
So, like on your first day on the job, like how did you feel, and what did you do to prepare for your first day to make sure that you were gonna make a good impression?
For NASA or Riot?
Right, and then we can get into NASA.
So I don't know if it's because it was my first internship, but I was way more nervous for Riot than I am for NASA. Because one detail I think I forgot to mention this Riot, the internship, most of it was remote. We only went on campus for like a little bit. Um, but it was like the first week was like orientation, and it was like, all on Zoom. And I remember just feeling like very, very nervous and not really knowing like what's going on and like feeling very scared. And but the thing that I really loved was like my mentors. I mean, they've done this before, they've had interns. They were just really good at just being very supportive. And I think when you're in a position like that too, like as an intern, you think like the weight of the world is on your shoulders. But these mentors, they've been doing this for like 20 plus years. They know you're still like a baby and you're still learning things. They don't take you that
Yeah.
seriously.
Right.
And that's like, it's like a nice feeling to know that like, oh, the kind of pressure that I put on myself in my head is not real. They don't see me like that. They very much know that I still have a lot to learn. And like the whole point is that they're teaching me. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean that brings me back to when I was younger. I first started playing shows with my band out live, and I was a perfectionist. I'm still a perfectionist. So,
Mhm.
one wrong, not note because it's drums, but one wrong hit or one place
Yeah.
where I didn't hit the drum where I was supposed to, or one cymbal hit or cymbal grab or whatever, or ride cymbal, whatever the case it was, I would focus
Mhm.
on that and afterwards I'd be like, I don't know, I messed up. I don't think we did that well. But then, someone would come up to you and give you a hug or like, hey, that was amazing.
Yeah.
Hey, you guys were so good. And it's like, oh, didn't you notice when I did X? And they're like,
Mhm.
no, it sounded good to me. So
Yeah.
it's interesting how perspective is when we're being very hard on being hard on ourselves just because that's all we know.
Yeah. Yeah.
It sounds like your job had a really good like mentorship integration program for newbies. I know in software it's hit or miss. Some companies they do have like a process where they slowly integrate you and treat you like a newbie, but like Brian in his experience, he was just kind of thrown in the fire and pretty much like hit the ground running. So do you feel like the fact that they took the time to mentor you and gradually onboard you that they really helped build your confidence up and get you ready for the actual job?
Um, yeah, 100%. I'm so grateful for my mentors at Riot. Like, they were just so supportive and, like, I messed up a lot. I was an
Yeah,
intern, so, like, there was a lot that I
right.
did not do right, and, like, even some really, really stupid mistakes, like uploading. I will never forget this, like, they asked me to create a 2K texture, and at that point, I'd never heard a 2048 by 2048 referred to as a 2K texture, which is so silly because normal people usually immediately understand that. But I made the texture size 2000 by 2000 instead of 2048 by 2048. So when they put it in the engine, it like glitched out. And I was like, oh, I don't know what's going on. And then he immediately caught it and he was like, oh, it's because you did this. And I was like, oh my God, I had no idea. And it was
Uh,
like the most stupid mistake. But it's
just like
like,
a little slip up.
yeah. But like that's just one of many. But they were just so kind and like always telling me that like I'm doing a good job and that like, I'm progressing well and that I'm learning and like that was just it made getting my work done so much easier and so much like more enjoyable because it felt like oh like all these insecurities I had in my head are not real. Like these people who are very experienced are telling me that I'm doing the right thing. So why am I trying to convince myself that I'm not? So it was just like really reassuring.
Yeah, a lot of it comes down to psychology, just the way you think. So, like, what are some of the other lessons that you took during your intern that you learned during your internship at Riot and that you took with you to your next job at NASA?
Um, I think having confidence that no matter what kind of issues arise, I am going to make it work. I'm going to finish it was like a big thing I learned because and I've like proven that to myself over and over again. But when you're in the middle of like a difficult, you know, situation when I'm working on something or like I'm trying to debug some shit, like it gets so overwhelming and I'm like, oh my God, I'm never gonna be able to fix this. But it's like always reminding myself, I'm like, hold up, I've done this before. I've gone through
Yeah,
worse than this. And it's like
right.
I've gone through so much worse than this, and I've literally gotten out and created amazing work. Why am I always trying to convince myself that I can't get through this? Like I can.
Yeah.
And I think the internship, having gone through the amount of like mistakes that I did, but still putting out like a really beautiful product was like really reassuring to me that like I have the ability to work through these issues. And that kind of reassurance has followed me throughout and
Yeah, I mean,
motivated me.
I can imagine that felt great.
Yeah, it did.
So, like, once the internship started drawing to a close, what was your thought process? Did you immediately have it in mind to apply to several different companies, or did you think that maybe they would offer for you to become a full time employee? Like, what was you thinking during that time?
Um, I mean, I didn't have the expectation that they were going to hire me full time just because of how bad the job market is right now. Like it was pretty clear considering the fact that we literally came in as interns, like, right as the layoffs at Riot happened. Like, I wasn't betting on getting a full-time offer. Um, so after the internship, I was just glad that I got to have, like, something really cool in my portfolio that opened so many doors for me. And, I went into my senior year and I didn't really think too much about what next until like a few months later when positions started opening. And at that point, I just kind of started applying to anything, but also I didn't worry too much about it. Um, I just kind of, I don't know, like went with the flow. And then, the communications team from NASA came and then I talked to them and then they told me they wanted to have me. So once I had that, I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like I have this thing lined up for the summer and the fall. Like I don't need to worry for a little bit.
Right. I mean, it sounds to me like you just really took a relaxed feeling to it all.
Yeah, I did. Because I think one thing I realized is when I was applying to a bunch of the internships junior year, the fall where I was applying to Riot, I applied to so many other things and I did get interviews for a lot of other things, but I realized like the positions that I wanted, the things that were meant for me, both of them, both so far, Riot and NASA, they kind of just came to me, but not because I just magically, made it happen or I'm somehow like really magically blessed. No, it's the hard work that I did was my portfolio. The whole like putting hours into applying and whatever, like that's important, but your work kind of speaks for you at a certain point. And as long as you're putting yourself out there, the people who want you will find you. So I kind of was more relaxed in the sense where I was like, I've done the hard work. I've done what I've needed to do. Like I basically worked like 3 years worth of work in junior year just from the amount of applications and all. And then I look back and I was like, I really didn't have to do any of that. Like I didn't even do anything like for the Riot thing. I applied 2 hours before it closed because what got me the internship wasn't like some sort of connection or whatever. It was the quality of my work.
That's awesome because, so many people, they can't get into jobs nowadays, just on their own merit. They have to kind of get in through the side door. A buddy recommends them to the HR or the hiring manager. So, just the fact that your work is speaking for itself and getting you, just these awesome positions. I think, you should really be proud of that.
Yeah. Thank you. I mean, again, I mean, everyone talks about connections and I do think they are important, but I don't know. I feel like I learned early on, like, I want to do these jobs because I actually like the work I'm doing and not because someone got me in. And like, if I can still get a position through the quality of my work, I'd rather choose that path than like trying to get in, weasel my way in through some sort of connection.
Right.
Yeah, it seems like you're all about merit, which I agree with. I don't like getting in because somebody hooked me up. I prefer because I have the sufficient skills to do the job. Um, so yeah, just getting into NASA, how did it feel like once you got that job? Did it feel just as good or better than getting the internship at Riot?
Um, I mean, it was very different. It was a very different feeling. I mean, of course, I was very excited and I couldn't believe it, but it wasn't the same kind for Riot because Riot, I had sort of like built myself up, basically convincing myself that like I was working up to this. Even though like I thought I was going to get the production internship, it's sort of like I had literally spent months being like, I'm going to work at Riot, I'm going to work at Riot. The NASA thing just came out of nowhere. So, and I think I'm still processing it. Like, even as I'm like nearing the summer session, like it hits me at random times where I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm at NASA, like that's insane. And it's very exciting, but also it is so unexpected in the like in my career, because I was fully convinced I was going to continue in video games and like just in entertainment. And having this makes me really curious about like what else is lined up for me, like what else, I don't know, the universe has for me, because like this is
Yeah.
very unexpected, like I wonder where it's gonna take me next.
Like, I wonder what else is out there. Like
Yeah.
with, music, I always found it to be that I never wanted to take gigs where I didn't like the music. So, in LA, there was a lot of pop gigs. I would turn them all down. There'd be gigs where they want you to play to a metronome, a click track. I would turn those down because I wouldn't have any fun playing to a click live. So
Yeah.
I turned down a sizable amount of opportunities that a lot of people would have jumped at, but I always felt like, I don't want to ruin the instrument just for some money. I'd rather pick out projects that I'm interested in and move from there.
Yeah.
So, like, can you see yourself going back into video games eventually, or just you being at NASA, it kind of really opened your mind to explore the other boundaries aside from like video games and entertainment?
I mean, I see both. Like, I can definitely see myself going back into video games, and I know I will at some point. Like, that's like a given. But being at NASA has opened up my mind to more like serious positions. Being at like a government agency is like very different than like working at a video game company. Um, I've been thinking about like other agencies I could work for, or even like getting into politics and how I could use my work for that. So like, I don't know. I guess I'll see.
Oh, interesting. So, yeah, can you give us a little bit of the contrast between working for something like a government agency versus a video game company? Like, is the work environment completely different, the operating structure, or day to day tasks, or
The work environment is very different. Like for Riot, it's so colorful. Everyone has a bunch of stuff on their desk everywhere. People are like going in and out. People have like crazy work hours too. Like it's like as long as you get your work done, doesn't really matter when you work, and as long as you like show up to your meetings, like people are like talking while they're working. Like it's a very like lively, fun, lighthearted environment, but everyone is still getting all their work done. Also, Riot has like a really, really amazing um like I don't even know what to call it, like meeting culture. Like there's nothing wrong, and if anything, it's encouraged to just reach out to random people at Riot and just have like a one-on-one with them. Like it's sort of like a big emphasis on like building the community and getting to know everyone that works there. For NASA, it's definitely a lot more conservative in the sense that like you're expected to be there at a certain time. There's form, you have to wear your like business casual.
Right.
um like the environments are a lot more sterile. um it's a lot more serious. You can't just like reach out to anyone. There are certain people like you can't just like message an astronaut on Teams and get away with that. Like you can't do that. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, it's just a lot more strict, but that doesn't mean it's a bad thing. It's just a different way of working, and there is a certain part of the like there's a certain aspect of the professionalism that I do really enjoy. Um, and I think really getting this experience, it's less about um, what I like and don't like, and it's more just giving me different options of like the life I'd want to live and the kind of job I'd want to have later on. So yeah.
So let me ask this for, the younger generation, people that are just growing up now, or maybe people just getting out of high school that are very green, they're very new, they're very fresh. If they're wanting to get into 3D art, if they're wanting to get into companies like NASA, what would be the main kind of points that you would, the main tips you would give them?
Um, Well, if someone wants to get into 3D art, um, the first thing that you kind of have to understand is like the fundamentals before even thinking about what company you want to work for or whatever. Like, if you're doing any kind of art, you have to know how to draw, you have to understand perspective, you have to understand color theory. It doesn't matter what kind of art you end up doing, the fundamentals will make or break like your portfolio and the quality of your work. So I see a lot of people who just like immediately jump into like doing 3D. And there's nothing wrong with experimenting, but I don't care if you're the most technical 3D artist on the planet. All you do is like, you know, hard surface modeling. Understanding things like shape language will hugely improve those skills. So I think that's the first step for everyone. You have to put in those hours to learn the fundamentals. And that's where like art school comes in handy, but it doesn't have to be through art school. You know, there's like other art programs, um, there's online classes, but like taking the time to paint, to draw, to do figure drawing, to do like planner studies, really anything before even getting into the technical stuff is like the number one thing.
Yeah, that's great advice.
Awesome. And for my final question, there's a lot of things coming down the horizon. We have artificial intelligence. We have kind of a shaky job market. There's a lot of challenges. So, what do you plan on doing to, develop your skill set and just to prepare yourself for, the art scene of the future to make sure that not only are you employable, but that you also excel?
Um, so like I know AI is brought up a lot, but to be fully honest, I don't give it any attention. I haven't cared much about it. I haven't really looked into it. I don't know how to describe it. It's just like a feeling. It doesn't feel relevant to me. I know that people say like it's going to take your job, it's going to take all the arts, but I just don't think that that's true because no matter how, advanced AI can get, it's like there will always be people and companies who want a human to be creating that kind of work. And like if there's one thing I've learned, the stronger your fundamentals are, the stronger your work is, the more that is so much more attractive than like something AI spits out. Because like AI can like, yeah, do like the technical, but not really. Even that, it's not, quite there. Like we had like a class at Riot with like one of the most prolific like splash artists, Bo Chen, and he was talking a lot about like rendering and how AI a lot of the times will render the entire image really clearly when in reality when you're trying to create like a well composed image, you don't render every part the same way. You only render the parts where you want the viewer to really focus on. You render that a little bit more than everywhere else. AI doesn't have that understanding yet, and people people think that that's not a big deal, but art directors know exactly what makes good art and what makes bad art. So I think at the end of the day, and this is something like my professors have always said too, you just focus on improving your skills, focus on improving those traditional skills. Because even if AI does take over, it takes over all the digital art, I have the ability to paint, I have the ability to sculpt, I can start doing that, I can find work doing those things. So fundamentals are number one, and that's the thing I'm mainly focusing on, just continuing to improve those.
That's awesome. I mean, kind of what you're talking about, AI coming in and doing, potentially your job. It makes me think of, painting and painters and, is the most precise painting technically precise? Is that better than, say, the Mona Lisa
Yeah.
or, some other piece of art? What do you think about that?
I mean, every time I look at AI art, it's like, yeah, it's, beautifully rendered, it's like super um, detailed, but that's never like, I'm never like, when I think of like beautiful art pieces, I'm not like AI. Just because something technically has that like really nice look doesn't mean it really speaks to people, doesn't mean it's telling a story, which is literally the point of art. It's storytelling. So like
Right.
that human touch, that experience, and I know people say those words a lot, but it does really mean something. Like people can tell when something has soul in it and when something doesn't. And until then, I'm just going to continue doing my thing and I'll worry about it if it happens. And at that point, if AI is getting to the point where it's basically replicating very, very human things, I mean, at that point, there's probably like real life androids, and most people have already lost their jobs. That's just a different reality. So,
Yeah.
Amazing. But yeah, we're at the top of the hour. Before we get out of here, did you want to leave our audience with any closing thoughts?
um, follow that calling that you have. Don't give up on it. That's the one thing I always tell people. Too many people give up on the things that they really want to do. Don't do that to yourself. Keep going at it, even if it feels impossible.
Great advice.
Yeah, I agree. And we definitely appreciate you for coming on. And